So I think I've made it very obvious that I am a very big horror fan. I've covered games like Still Wakes the Deep, Alan Wake 2, and that might be it actually. But I feel like over the past year, I've done a pretty good job at establishing why I love horror so much and why October is a great month, because not only are we getting A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead this month, but we are also getting a fantastic game. And by getting, I mean we got a fantastic game. Silent Hill 2's remake released, and it's amazing. Now, before I start this review, like I start and say in every single one of these videos, this is just my opinion. So if you don't agree with it, totally get it. I totally understand. It doesn't really matter to me at the end of the day, as long as we can have a respectful discussion about our opinions. So right now, Silent Hill 2 is sitting at about a 95% liked this game. It has an 86 on Metacritic, and I believe it has a almost 10 out of 10 on Steam. I'm trying to pull it up right now as I look at it, but yeah, it looks like it is an overwhelmingly positive game on here. When you Google it, it says 10 out of 10 on Steam. So yeah, this game released October 7th to raving reviews. Now, for myself, this game was very interesting because before I say this, please don't crucify me here. I never played Silent Hill 2, the original. I played Silent Hill, and that was pretty much my extent. I didn't really fall in love with the universe after that, even though I do think, and looking back on it, I still believe that Silent Hill is a fantastic game. Just at the time, I wasn't a big horror fan. I wasn't really a big horror fan until I hit probably about like 16. Once I hit 16, I was all angsty, and that horror love just never went away. It's like my favorite genre of anything ever. I love horror. And everyone always talked about how Silent Hill 2 is one of the best horror games ever made. People always said it. I've heard it countless times when bringing up horror. And for me, it was definitely on my list of games to play this year, but then they announced this. So I figured, let me play this game first. Let me digest it. And I'll probably tackle Silent Hill, the original, or Silent Hill 2's original game within the next year or so. Also, Konami really needs to step it up in terms of preservation, because from what I can tell, there's really like nowhere to play the original Silent Hill 2, and that kind of pisses me off. But yeah, like I said at the start, this review is from somebody who never played the original game. So take that with as you will, with a grain of salt, whatever. Again, this is my opinion on the game, and I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. So there's not really a place to start here outside of the backlash that the game was getting before it released. Now, I'm one of those people, as many of you know from the Ghost of Tsushima 2 video, that I really don't like it when people jump to conclusions before the game is out. Now, if you think a game is going to be shit, that's one thing. But if you write it off without letting yourself have the capability of being wrong, that's where my problems start to lie. And that was very apparent here. And a lot of people had very strong opinions about this game before it came out because of Bloober Team's record. And I don't really blame people for that. People were really upset because Silent Hill 2 has needed a remake for a while, and people have really wanted a new kind of spin on this classic game. And man, do I feel fucking great for Bloober Team, because this game is being received so well. And I'm right in that boat. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I think this game is fantastic. This is probably my favorite horror game. Definitely not my favorite horror game from like recent times, because Alan Wake 2 is just, that game is fucking amazing. What can I say? But Silent Hill 2 here is definitely now in my top 10 favorite horror games of all time. There's so much writing on this game in terms of the story, in terms of the graphics, in terms of the atmosphere, and I feel like pretty much everything hits the nail on the head. Now let's start with the graphics here in terms of the actual game. The graphics here, I think, are incredible. They're like, if you're playing this game on PC like I did, and you're just fucking cranking it up all the way, it's going to look fantastic. I think that pretty much every aspect of the game looked very good. I think there were definitely some parts where it was a little questionable, and I don't know if that was more of a tech issue, because there definitely were some bugs here, but the game didn't release in like a broken state or anything. They did a great job, but I do think that there were some aspects where I was a little unpleased with it. For example, the first thing that comes to mind is that setting that you can turn on. I can't remember the name of the filter, but it kind of puts like that old grainy look. I wasn't the biggest fan of how that was executed. I can see people loving it, or I can see people absolutely hating it. Something that did look absolutely amazing though was the fog. The fog and the environments when you're walking through the main town, just so well done. It was so good. There was a lot of audio cues in this game too that work really, really well for me. I think overall, Silent Hill 2's remake has a fantastic atmosphere. I talked about atmosphere pretty much at length for my Still Wakes the Deep review, and why I actually hold that game pretty high for me. I thought that game was a lot better than most people did, mostly because the way I rank horror is the atmosphere. Horror is a insanely objective genre. Something that scares you might not scare me, vice versa. Things that leave me on the edge of my seat aren't going to leave you at the edge of your seat. It really just depends on how we see things. For me, atmosphere is pretty much every element of a horror medium that makes you feel like you have to look over your shoulder at all times. That feeling when you're watching a really good horror movie, TV show, or playing a really good horror game, and you constantly are on the edge of your seat waiting for something to happen, whether it's because of the music, whether it's because of the level design, whether it's because of how the game looks or how the medium looks, whether it's because it's shot in first person or third person, anything like that. All of those are in a crock pot right under atmosphere, and Silent Hill 2's remake absolutely knocks it out of the park. If you're looking for a game to just kind of keep you on edge, I feel like this is a good game to do that. Now, I do want to put an asterisk there, because there were aspects of this game that felt a little handholdy for my liking. Now, did I die during this? Yes, I did, mostly because there were moments where I wasn't playing with sound on. But did I also like slowly try to sneak around most corners of this game? Yes and no. Like there were some parts where it did feel like I was just kind of walking into an action sequence rather than just being like pissing myself being scared. And that's totally fine, because I feel like it's a good blend here and it works really well for what they were trying to achieve. But I can definitely see people being upset at that fact. Like there were definitely times where I felt like there was a little too many enemies, if that makes sense. I don't know. For me, this game really, really, really relied on that tension feeling of you waiting for something to happen. And I thought the boss fights here were really well done. Apparently they're very close to the original game. They were just changed to make a little more sense, and that, again, to me, that makes a lot of sense, because they're trying to modernize this old game. I don't know. I think that there were times where it felt like the bosses were too easy when you're trying to kill them versus when you're trying to kill a group of the littler monsters. Does that make any sense here? People have said that in the original game, it felt like it was just a shooting simulator, because you were just unloading bullets into enemies, and that was kind of the feeling that I got here too, in terms of just fighting enemies off. Now, James, it makes sense for him not to be able to knock someone out with one swing, because I don't want to say he's pathetic, but he's a little like not the strongest human being. So it makes sense. It just kind of bothered me sometimes. Speaking of James, I think that the characters in this game, phenomenal. Like so good. Again, I can't speak on how they compare to their original counterparts, because I just didn't play the game. But from what I've heard, everybody, at least most people, think that it was a really, really good representation of the original characters in this modern light. James's actor, I think, does a really great job of portraying a guy who's going through a lot, who just also doesn't really have a lot of normal reactions to things that people like you and me would have. Does that make sense? I think it just works really well here. And then the design design of the worlds, being able to break car windows or break the windows of shops, going into a lot of buildings to try to collect things, felt a lot like Resident Evil 2's remake here, if I'm being honest, but I'm totally okay with that because that remake is also great. I touched on the sound a little bit earlier, but the music, super good. It's pretty fire, to be honest, and the sound cues are fantastic. Like, there's multiple times where I would enter a room and I would turn around once the door closed because I thought that the door was being opened again, just because my brain wasn't used to a game having the sound of the door closing behind me. It was just, I don't know, it was really cool. I'm also, I guess, just not the hardest person to impress in terms of horror games, but this game just, for me, it does a fantastic job of what it's trying to do. I might not be able to compare it to the original game, but I can compare this to a lot of different horror games that I've played and love. My favorite horror game of all time and one of my favorite games of all time is Alien Isolation, solely because of that atmosphere that game created. And this atmosphere in Silent Hill 2 is up there. It's not, I think, on the same level. It's not on the same bar, but it's definitely up there on the more positive side when you're looking at the overall kind of circumference of horror games that we have. I just want to give a round of applause again to Bloober Team because this was an uphill battle since the announcement for them, and I really hope that they're kicking their feet up somewhere, hopefully not in Florida because Florida is going to be underwater here in a little bit, but I really, really hope that they're getting their praises from Konami, and I hope that they're reading all of the positive reviews that people are leaving because I think they did such a good job. But I think that's pretty much it. That's all I can really talk about without getting too spoilery here. I really don't want to get into like the meat of the story because I know there's probably a lot of people who are like me who never really played the original Silent Hill games. Maybe this is their first ever experience with Silent Hill and they just want to get in on the hype. I totally get it. I think this is a really good place to start. I really hope that they remake Silent Hill, the original game, in this engine because I think it would be absolutely a smash hit. If you didn't like the original Silent Hill or you didn't like this remake or you have some sort of different opinion than everybody else, again, don't let people tell you that that's not okay. You're welcome on this channel here. Let me know in the comment section down below how you felt about this game or how you felt it stood up to the original. Again, I've not seen too much negativity from people who have played the original game in terms of comparing it to this game. And if that's who you are, or that's the ballpark you fall into, I would love to hear it. I love hearing different perspectives of things. So go ahead and leave a comment. I don't know if I can convince people to go play a game because I'm not someone who tries to tell you what to do with your money. You can spend it how you want. But if you're looking for a October horror game to delve into, this is the one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys a ton. Let me know again how you felt in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for all of the support recently as well. I really appreciate it. Go check out my other videos and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.